I also think like, what if the ones we've seen are like the fuck up aliens? Like, God damn it, Tim. You let the fucking humans see you? Like, you fucked this up.
Yeah.
You know, like...
These drugs.
All right. So I wanted to ask you if you think we should bully... Or no. Teach kids to bully and chastise in the correct way. If there is a correct way.
I mean, I need you to tell me what is the correct way.
Like, I don't know what the correct way is, but I feel like a lot of, like, in a social situation you see with kids, right? You know the one kid is doing something wrong, right? Like, so, like, the other day, like, my niece is a shit disturber, right? Like, she's the youngest kid in a family of 4 with 3 older brothers, right? So she's going to get away with murder. It's already become apparent, right? So it's like when the older kids get frustrated with her, they don't know, like they'll lash out, right? Like they'll whip her in the face with something, and then they'll get the repercussions from a parent, right?
Right.
So should we be teaching kids how to, like...
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I'm trying to get back?
What you're referring to is socialization, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're growing up, you get socialized by your parents, by the community, by your teachers, and also by the people, your peers, right? So in that, I think that's very valuable, right? Like I remember being a kid and having my friends sort of rip on me about certain things. And I think like I'm better for it, right? Because I'm not a complete tool about something that I may have been because I was a little bit of an asshole in some way, but my friends were, giving me shit about it in my, formative years. And now I'm not that person. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that's good. But I think bullying is different, right? Bullying is when you have like a budding sociopath who just terrorizes someone else. And it's not socialization. It's not helping that kid become a better person.
Right. That is the important distinction.
Yeah.
I'm not talking I think my idea was just that, teaching socialization or how to correctly like curb someone or whatever keeps people from becoming bullied. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're less likely to go to violence if you can just use your words to like absolutely shut somebody down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is very important, and particularly for guys, right? Because when you're a young boy, there's all of this biology telling you to be the biggest dick you can be, right? And being like taking down a few pegs is very important. Yeah, for guys, right?
Well, it's in the same way that like I know if I go to a bar, I'm not going to mouth off a 6'7" dude who's 300 pounds because I've had the shit beaten out of me by somebody when I was mouthy earlier, right? Mm-hmm. That's why I feel like some people, like Jake Paul's whatever, it's like they grow up being these douches because they never they have money that has like a superpower over their friends. They never want to be criticized because it's like, well, if I criticize Jake, I won't be able to go to his pool party, right? Mm-hmm. But like if Jake Paul actually talked half of the shit he did to anybody, that was an actual fighter, like he would get fucked up beyond belief. And I bet that would be the last time he ever does it. Yeah. Like if Floyd Mayweather kills him at this next fight, I think there's a large majority of people that are just like cheering for that because I honestly think that's when we would start to see the real Jake Paul, not who he's projecting to be. You would see the guy that's like, hey, I was humbled. I got the shit beat out of me. Like maybe this is just wishful thinking.
Yeah. I don't know Jake Paul that well. In fact, I haven't followed these like fights.
I don't know how I keep up on all this YouTube drama shit, but it's really funny. Like people are trying to do TikTokers versus YouTube like fight card.
Oh, that's cool.
So they're basically pitting douches against each other from each app. Yeah. Like everybody hates both guys. That's the idea.
Right.
Is that at least one group is going to be really fucking happy the other guy gets knocked out. Because currently, Jake Paul, like, the joke is that he chooses people that he's for sure going to beat, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so people are trying to pit these two douches against each other. And anyways, oh, God. I don't know why it's so entertaining, but I get why. Like, I get why boxing is upset. Did you hear that? Like, officially, boxing like said, we'll let you compete for a real title, but if you lose, you have to never box again.
Oh no, I didn't.
Because
hear
he's
that.
destroying the sport, in their opinion. Like, he's losing all respect for boxing, or like bringing down the value for actual fighters.
Yeah, well, absolutely. They should give him a shot at the title or whatever. Right?
Yeah, he's never going to take it.
Yeah,
because he's making, in theory, he claims to be making $100 million per fight, right?
Wow.
That's how much, like, the in theory view, but of course they're suing a bunch of people, so I don't think they're really getting $100 million per fight.
Yeah, well, that's crazy ridiculous. Oh man, that pisses me off to hear, right? 100, even like, I don't know what a value is that wouldn't piss me off. 5 million maybe, if he was getting
for
that.
him to get.
Yeah,
I don't even know who his demographic is. Like, I don't.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
I literally don't know who these 13 to 20. I assume that's his demographic. Like,
yeah.
There's no way anybody older than 25 is like, I fucking love Jake Paul. Like, that's not his.
Like, unironically into Jake Paul. Yeah, I can't imagine who that is. Right. Even my nephews, I doubt are those people.
How old are your nephews?
Like 11 and 13 or something like that.
Yeah, like, and I don't even think it appeals to like normal 11, 13-year-old. Like, I think they can kind of see through what like his shenanigans and shit are, right? Like, it's like he's not a real person in any way. I feel like authenticity is something that people can't accurately judge in general.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, what we talked about before about not being able to because they're on TV, right? It provides a different layer that it's harder to determine, right?
But like, Ellen is a perfect example. It's like, I knew Ellen was an asshole. I feel like every comic knew Ellen was an asshole, right? But it's only coming out now that she's an asshole. Like, I don't.
I'm learning that she's an asshole right now. What is going on with Ellen?
Well, it's like, okay, so this goes back to, I think we talked about this last week, Mr. Beast or anybody that's trying to be too happy or too whatever, like projecting shit.
Yeah.
I immediately my defenses go up. I'm like, what is wrong with this person?
Mm-hmm.
So Ellen's like, I dance every episode. It's like, you don't think Ellen's going to want to kill herself after the first season of doing this? Like, if you've ever seen her stand up, it's like Bob Saget, right?
Yeah.
This kind of thing never happens today, where you put on some of the filthiest, dirty comics and you put them in this like wholesome TV show. Mm-hmm. And then you're gaining this whole audience of people that only know them as this, and then they go out to their shows, right? And then it's just like they're talking about like terrible things, and they're like, "This isn't the Bob Saget I knew." And that's the same for Ellen. Is like, you look at Ellen's like stand up, and you're just like, how are you on a boring women's daytime talk show? And like, she's also claiming that she didn't know what was going on. And like, any writers will tell you that it's like a small group. It's like 40 people are in Ellen's inner workings, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, to not know that there's like a toxic work environment is such an absurd notion. Like, she's saying like her show is running to a close because it's just the natural progression of things, not because of the toxic work environment.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I haven't followed much of that. I mean, the last thing I really remember about Ellen was when she was seen being friends with George Bush Jr. And everyone was freaked out about that because it's like he's a war criminal and stuff like that. Yeah. I didn't really know how to feel about that, right? I was like, well, I don't know.
I remember seeing that, it was at an NFL game, if I believe, right?
Yeah.
And I think they got put on the Jumbotron, like a bunch of people booed and whatever. And I was like, I just remember like scrolling through the comments, and people were super outraged and whatever. And I was just like, you don't think like rich comes before anything
Yeah.
else.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Rich hangs out with rich.
Right.
This shit's happening all the time. Like, you don't think that they're using their privilege to meet people that you might not disagree with or do disagree with? Like,
Yeah, it's a completely different world when you're that wealthy, right?
Yeah.
Like these kind of things, like a war in the Middle East, it's not very real to your sensibilities, right? It's just this abstraction that happens, right? So I don't know, like I'm no fan of George Bush or really Ellen, so I didn't care too much, but I never got all the controversy over that. This latest thing, I saw it on the internet and I didn't even click on it. So
right. Well, she's like most people, like Trump, right? That she just makes everyone sign NDAs. So like one podcast I listened to, both of them were writers. And so like they've just been absolutely reveling in this, right? Like they've known this for like 10 years and they're like, we're not saying that we agree with the thoughts of these writers, but it may or may not be accurate. You know?
what's like the specific complaints that they, like what is going on in her workplace?
I don't remember the specific allegations, but it's just not a fuck. I really should have read up about this if I was going to bring it up. But it was mostly just like, yeah, people were Harvey Weinstein kind of shit. Like women felt like that on the show, and then not because of Ellen specifically, but because of the executives at Ellen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's less to do with Ellen herself. She's an a-hole for sure, from what I've heard, but like it's mostly that she just allowed these dudes that she's really close to just run amok, being controlling assholes, firing writers whenever they want, you know.
Yeah. Okay. That's bullshit. But I still take the position that it's not really, I'm not the arbiter of this issue, right? Like there should be HR, there should be workplace harassment laws, things like that in place to deal with this. It doesn't really need to be something that I pass judgment on.
Right.
Right. I mean,
well, people got upset with it, especially because as we're canceling Harvey Weinstein and all these other people, right?
Yeah.
It's taken a year to cancel a woman on TV, right? Because it's like, you don't want to cancel a woman on TV. There's not many women on TV, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But for me, it's like when there's a double standard, the solution to a double standard isn't to double down on the other side, right? It's not to like, oh, because people like Louis C.K. get canceled over something, let's go super hard on Ellen to cancel her to show how bullshit it is. It's like, no, do the thing that you want to see happen in your camp, right? If you don't think that these people should be strung out in the court of public opinion, when it happens to the other side, you have to set a good example. Right?
Oh, I agree. I think the main issue is just that a lot of people, and the kind of like stuff that Ellen would talk about on her show was cancel culture-y. Do you know what I mean? Like, really was like, isn't it absurd or isn't it upsetting that this group does that? Like they would put focus on people in a negative light. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. True.
And so it's kind of like, well, if you're doing that, you kind of got it coming when it comes to you, right? Like,
that's a very good point. Hypocrisy definitely changes that equation. I really hate hypocrisy, especially when it's something like that. Like when somebody is advocating against something that they're committing in the background. Oh, hate that so much. So yeah, that is bullshit. 100%.
Well, but I think that's why like I have such a strong. Ellen's audience is like 88% women, right?
Yeah.
Mostly white, right?
Yeah.
Those are the same women that are very into cancel culture, very into whatever. And when they hear that their hero is doing terrible shit, it's the blind eye, just like Harvey Weinstein and stuff, right? Like people just turning a blind eye because it's like, well, he makes really good movies, you know, and that's how he got away from it. It's like, well, yeah, but she makes a pretty good TV show and I love to fucking dance, you know, like.
Yeah, I still like, I don't want us to leverage these things in that way, right? I don't want something like this Ellen thing to be a chance to get a shot in on people that have been canceling all these other people, right? To me, that's a weird vindictive game that I
See,
wouldn't
you don't
play.
love revenge as much as I do.
No, I don't.
I
No.
love revenge. I think it's the number one like movie I would watch. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. If I had to choose one genre the rest of my life, it's like person kills family, guy goes murders millions of people as revenge.
Right. No, I'm much more of be the good example that you want to see in
Right.
other people, right?
You sure you're not Christian?
No, I don't
You
need to
sound like
be.
a
I'm
Christian.
already.
You sound like a Christian.
Well, a good example, right? I was watching another podcast, or sorry, listening to another podcast recently, and they were talking about the Dixie Chicks, right? How the Dixie Chicks are like the original canceled person, and that was all right-wing conservative people that did that, right? Because they came out against the Iraq War, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah. So the Dixie Chicks thing was like pretty crazy because the one of the chicks, the one that said all those things, she wasn't even an original member of the band. The record company forced them because they used to have like a late 30s lead singer to that band, and the record company's like, no, this will never work. So they got like a younger 18-year-old, wasn't even a country music fan, to be the lead singer of this band. They didn't have a
the
choice.
record industry.
Yeah, and then that was the one that, and she was kind of like an SJW to begin with, right? So they had no choice on who this person was, and it destroyed their career, right?
Right. Yeah, those record contracts of the past are wild to me. Like where you have to sign like a eight album deal, and it's just kind of like, yeah, you may disagree with getting a new lead singer, but then they have the rights that you can't go to anybody else,
right,
without breaking contract, and then you get sued into the ground. So I can see how it just ruins their entire lives.
Yeah, and then so to me, it's like the left wing, right wing, neither side is squeaky clean when it comes to cancel culture. I think we just need to, as individuals, just say, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. I hope that there's regulatory systems in place to deal with situations where people are being harassed in the workplace. If there isn't, let's fix that, but let's not go after specific examples.
Oh, I mean, I'm with you. I know about cancel culture.
Yeah.
Have I ever participated in it? Not to my knowledge. You know, like I've never gone to be like, you should delete your account. You say hateful. I don't care enough. Like I just don't care enough to go cancel anybody. There's nobody that I can think of that enrages me enough to take time out of my day to go to try to cancel.
Yeah, like it's not a hobby of yours to go onto Twitter and be like, you should die. And
no,
yeah,
like if anything, yeah, I can't think of anybody that I would want to cancel, even terrible people.
Yeah,
I kind of think if you have a platform, you probably have it for a reason. Like, so Rush Limbaugh, perfect example, right? That dude railed against drugs for like 30 years, right?
Right.
But it turned out he was doing like horse tranquilizers every day, like insane amounts of drugs, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I want us to cancel people that are being outright deceptive, right? Like if your content that you're putting out there is bullshit.
Oh,
right?
For sure. No, don't get me wrong. I don't want people like Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Influencing stupid people.
Yeah,
right?
But if you had someone like Ellen, who in the background toxic shit is happening, but she's giving forth a good message, I'm less likely to want to cancel that person than I am someone who has a squeaky clean organization, but they're advocating for toxicity as their platform. Right.
I just feel like if you go ahead and cancel Rush Limbaugh or something, you're going to get a more extreme view, because what happens is like his 70 million followers, whatever, is like, oh, the left's coming for us. We got like, I feel like that's how, what's the America One network? AON? Is that what it is?
Oh, I don't know.
So like they're the group that's like, Fox News isn't propaganda-y enough. We need to create our new network for Trump, right? Like,
yeah.
Those people, I don't even know where I'm going with any of this. Cut this shit.
No. I know what you're saying. You're right. Like it's a hard game to play because you don't want people who are speaking deceptively, right? Like I hate Steven Crowder, for example. Like Steven Crowder pisses me off.
The name is familiar.
Louder with Crowder. He's those memes online where there's a guy sitting at a table and it says change your mind, change my mind.
He's such an arrogant douche.
Yeah, he's a horrible person. Would canceling someone like that just make his fans even more extremist and go towards someone else? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how to reconcile
it goes back
that.
to tribalism, right? I really think that if you try to cancel anyone, if in this day and age anyway, you get more media attention and more eyes on you than you ever have, and so that's going to draw in one side or the other even more. Like I don't think like even getting canceled now isn't a bad thing. You go on to do another thing and more people know your name than you ever did before.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that's how Jordan Peterson got started. He got started by being canceled, right? Yeah.
And I mean, he's laughed his way to the bank, as he says a million times. He's like, you guys made my career. I was just a fucking douche in Ontario preaching to like maybe 60 people and you guys trying to cancel me. And I now have a worldwide audience and I tour for 120,000 at every speaking event.
Yeah, totally.
Right? It's like...
Yeah, I think the solution is to do what we're doing right now, is to put out content that you want to see out there, right? It's like you gotta push a signal into the noise that hopefully some people are going to listen to and are going to actually have the right perspective or the right perspective as you see it, right?
There is that thought, though, that if you're not extreme one way or the other now, it's not appealing.
Yeah.
Right? Like the reason people go extreme in the public eye is because it does garner more clickbait, more whatever, right? If you say like Trump was never birthed in the United States or whatever.
I know, yeah.
It's going to get traction whether it's real or not. Whereas like us talking about personality tests, that's not really going to jar anything. Like I was thinking about this today. The number one way we could grow our podcast, start beefing with everybody until somebody says, fuck these guys. And then it's like, sweet, 10,000 people checked out our podcast. They could fucking hate us. Awesome. I don't care. We will start making money from that.
Yeah. I agree. But one, you have to actually come up with legitimate insults or criticisms to throw at these people, right?
You don't have to. You're saying we do.
Yeah.
But history has shown you can just throw any accusation and it'll get traction.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's... I don't know.
A fucking president said that another president was not born in the United States.
Yeah.
That still is a firm belief in like half of Americans' minds.
I know, but I don't know. I really want to elevate the discourse, and I don't care. Our 7 viewers can be the 7 till the end, right?
Yeah.
But as long as we're giving them like authentic, good content, then I'm happy, right?
I don't know if we can be the judge of if this is good content. I have no idea if this is good content versus what else is out there.
True. I don't know if it's good content, but I feel like I'm speaking authentically, right?
True.
I'm not saying something that is going to get more views just because it gets more views. I'm saying things that I truly believe.
We haven't been corrupted by the system yet. We haven't had MeUndies coming and telling us that we need to talk about the underwear shortage in X country yet.
Yeah, true.
Maybe we'll get corrupted by that. I don't think so. I've been a pretty fucking authentic person my entire life, but I could see like the trapping, like it happens on TikTok all the time, right? What generally happens on TikTok is you maybe have 1,000 views on your TikTok most of the time. But then the algorithm, for whatever reason, one time will pick you up and boost you to like 3.5 million people, right?
Right.
So you get the idea like, oh, I mentioned crypto. I should just only talk about crypto now. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like if we suddenly talked, like Jordan Peterson, some hot button topic, right? Would we be more incentivized to bring, like, I think it'd be hard to not at least know in the back of your mind, if I mention this and tag this in my YouTube, it's going to get more views. And I think that's the trapping most people do get into.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I had thought about doing a while back was I created an additional YouTube account and I just subscribed to all the most right-wing stuff that I could, right? And I would just force myself to like let YouTube's algorithm give me all of this garbage, right? And I was like, will this then prompt me to start making videos debunking all of this stuff, right? And I couldn't do it because I just got too angry. Like 5 minutes of that, and I was like, fuck this bullshit. It's horrible, right?
Yeah.
But maybe that's what we need to do. We need to like force ourselves to like get all of this opposing content that would really piss us off, and then we just rip on it as a podcast, right?
Yeah. It doesn't appeal to me to rip on stuff, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would hate to actually have an adversarial podcast.
Yeah.
Because like, to me, the idea of going, like, anybody, when they, like, YouTubers love doing it, right? They know if they start beefing with H3H3 or PewDiePie or whatever,
Yeah.
people are going to go to that person's platform and switch back and forth, right? And get views, and it's good for their careers. I never would want to be responding to somebody, really.
Yeah.
Like, say we had 1 million whatever, and someone was like, "Oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about, blah blah blah." I would just let that go into the fucking void. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want to engage, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing it better. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the audience, the masses.
Are we going to go crazy like Joe Rogan?
I mean,
I think he's legit going crazy.
Is he? I haven't watched him in a while, so.
No, but he keeps popping up in the news saying stupid shit like vaccines, you shouldn't do it if you're young.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's one of the main reasons they're thinking that they won't get to herd immunity in the States now.
oh Jesus.
Because 41% of, like, I think it was 41% of Americans refuse to get it outright. Like,
Yeah.
Joe Rogan was like, "We don't know what's in this. You definitely shouldn't do it if you're young and healthy." I was like, "Oh my God." Anyways, he just keeps coming.
Seriously? Oh, that is
Absolutely.
such bullshit.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So-
because young and healthy people can't give the virus to an old person, right?
But this is the thing. So Joe Rogan's always had that thing of saying, "I'm just an idiot. What do I know?" But at a certain level, you have to be responsible with what you're saying.
Right.
You have the biggest platform in the world, and you're telling people to not get vaccinated. It's like, you have literally no idea about vaccines or anything, and have not researched this. You talk to guys like Alex Jones or all these other pseudo whatevers.
Yeah.
And that's where he gets his fucking ideas from, right?
Right.
Is like, he doesn't, that's one thing that's always annoyed me about his podcast, is he doesn't distinguish between actual experts and people that, like, he just knows who have some title that sounds fancy, right?
Well, I think people, as they get older, they start to lose their critical reasoning skills as well, right? I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I find the older men, at least in like my world, like my family and people I work with, it's like they believe bullshit at a much higher rate than people in our generation do, right? I think as you get older, something starts to degrade in that way, right? So
I personally haven't noticed it, but I don't know.
yeah.
Don't have many old men in my life, I guess.
Yeah, where I work, unfortunately, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, speaking of Joe Rogan, though, this kind of goes along with Joe Rogan. Why don't we care about UFOs all of a sudden? So, like, the government finally admits they've seen shit that they can't explain. You know, these, like, tic-tac, I think that's what they call them, tic-tac, like, unidentified objects.
Right.
And, like, the CIA actually tried to put a patent on it. and it was rejected recently because they couldn't prove
Yeah.
that how you make it. But like, why don't we care? Like they finally admitted it, which is what everyone wanted, but like, we don't give a shit.
Well, the UFO thing back when I was a kid, we thought they were aliens, right? We weren't thinking Russian spies. We were thinking little green men from outer space, right? That's what captured our attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people are less likely to think that about an unidentified flying object today, right?
So what do you, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I thought people were still seeing it as these must be aliens.
Yeah, maybe, but that's the thing, right? It's like, I know me personally, I mean, maybe this is just me growing up, but the idea that aliens would just come and fly around in our atmosphere and then just leave doesn't make any sense at all, right? Like, why would they do that? Right?
Well, I mean, we go deep sea whatever to go see all the fucking weird things under the ocean.
Yeah, but
It's observing, right?
Yeah, true. They could be just on a safari, right? But I mean, we don't put a lot of effort into hiding ourselves when we're going out and viewing lions on the African savannah, right? We're not hiding it. So why are these aliens?
Well, I mean, like the BBC Animal Planet and stuff, they hide themselves to get accurate representations of what animals do when they're not being watched.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe. I don't know. There's also the thing of, it's like, there's a lot of expanse between places, right? So our planet is orbiting a sun, and the amount of distance to like the nearest star at light speed, which is what we know to be the fastest you could travel, is like 2 years, right? So, and it's highly unlikely that's where they're coming from. Like, if there's a intelligent species, they could be 50 million light years away, right? Like, it just wouldn't be possible for them to come here. So I don't see,
But then this goes to the people that, like, the pyramids had to be built by aliens, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe they already did the light travel, and now they're just among us, right?
Yeah, true.
How the fuck would we know is the argument, right?
Maybe. I mean, I think the other thing that isn't so much affecting me, because I'm much more about how practical and reasonable is this assumption. But the thing that might affect a lot more people is that everybody has a camera, right? Nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the assumption now is like, if there really were UFOs flying through the night sky, it would just be there'd be so much more evidence out there of it, right? I mean, you can go on to YouTube and Reddit and places like that and find UFO videos, right? But it's not as abundant as it should be if there actually was UFOs.
Counterpoint to that, though, I think this is valid, is we are all so suspicious of videos we see now.
Yeah.
That those videos would not take off. Like, do you know what I mean? They wouldn't become popular enough for us to see, because it's just like, well, Gary says this is a whatever, but Gary might just, like, I cynically think everyone's just trying to get famous these days.
Yeah, we would say, oh, it's VFX, right?
Yeah.
But that wouldn't mean that. It's not like I go out into the world with a high def camera with a zoom lens and a tripod, and I capture like perfect image of a UFO. It's not like I'm going to then go, oh, I would put this online, but everyone's going to think it's bullshit. So I'm just going to not. I'm just going to sit on this amazing piece of footage and never show it to anyone. Yeah. Least they believe I'm full of bullshit, right?
Yeah, no, I get that. But then I also think, like, what if the ones we've seen are like the fuck up aliens? Like, God damn it, Tim. You let the fucking humans see you? Like, you fucked this up.
Yeah.
Like, and also just think how much shit happens, like, that you don't have time to record.
True.
Like, I'm always impressed that anything's ever on video. You know, like when I, like, oh my God, this was my favorite video that I saw on TikTok. Most people wouldn't enjoy this, but I really enjoyed it. There's a fight that starts in like a liquor store. This guy was the best cameraman I've ever seen. It's like he knew this was all going to happen. So he records this fight, and then one of the guys runs to his car, and like this other, the dude that was in the fight with him is just like casually walking on the road still. And I'm just like, you dumb shit. Like the guy you just fought is about to fucking smoke you with his car. Sure enough, gets smoked. And so like in the comments, I'm like, I hate to victim blame, but like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
If someone I'm fighting with gets in his car, I'm going the fuck back inside or getting out of the roadway, right? But like that guy to have had his phone out, I feel like there was already 3 or 4 minutes that has happened where they were fighting in the store before he even thought, I need to start recording this. Because like you're seeing people come out with like shirts torn off, shit like that, right?
Yeah, that's possible.
So like to see something quick like a UFO would be like, ha! Like there's like it's instantaneous.
Yeah, but just think about 9/11, right? Like 9/11, even though not everybody had a camera phone back then, we still have images of the planes hitting the towers just because there's just that many different cameras pointing in all these different directions.
Or it was done by the government and they needed footage to convince the American people to go to war 4 years later.
Inside job. Yeah. Totally. I totally am not on board with that. I mean, I watched I
know, but you see, that's how conspiracy theories take off, right? Because it's like, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, they did need footage to show the American people. Otherwise, it's like, it's not as effective.
Right. And people will use the fact that we have good footage of that happening as evidence that it was an inside job, right? I personally see it as evidence that there's just enough things recording every single angle you can think of that a really good high fidelity UFO video should surface.
Yeah.
Right. It shouldn't be these weird, shaky.
It is always the shakiest, worst cameras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's interesting. Have you ever watched The Untold Story of the United States by
Oliver Stone?
Yeah. That's the one that just made me like fucking question anything the US does. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know this. Like, I'm with you. I don't believe it's an inside job, right? I used to, like, and that's why I find it interesting that you say, like, as you get older, you think your critical thinking goes away. Yeah. Because I think I was a fucking dumbass till about 27.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, before 23, I don't know, it's something like your cerebral cortex hasn't fully formed or something like that. So yeah, obviously there's that period of your life as well, right? But then there's also a period in your advanced age where your cognitive faculties start to diminish, right? Are there any, like are there any conspiracy theories that you're like, that one seems kind of legit?
Well, it's like anything. I don't really believe half the shit I think. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's what keeps me from like, you know, if I really believe there was, I don't know, like it is that whole thing of like, if I really thought there was a child slavery ring happening in a pizza shop, I also would go fucking fight someone and try to figure out if there was. But I never believe in anything enough to care about it. Like it's inconsequential to my life, whether or not I believe a conspiracy theory or not. Yeah. Like people that get wrapped up in conspiracy theories to me are just really bored people. Like that I need to show hobbies and friends and fun shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that I saw I saw a Twitter post that perfectly captures my perspective on conspiracy theories. And this person said, like, why do people think that a secret group of rich people run the world instead of the non-secret group of rich people that actually run the world, right? Like, why is that more appealing? You know, the people that are actually controlling the world, they're not hiding it, right? They're out there. We just sort of ignore it, right? So it's like, why don't we pay attention to that instead of assuming that it's the Zionists or whatever, right?
Well, Yeah. I mean, also, I think like if I had billions of dollars, I'm not trying to manipulate markets or anything like that. I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
Like I'm immediately out. Like I don't care. Like I'm done with money, the world. I can just do fun shit the rest of my life.
Yeah, although I think that the billionaires are still kind of fucked up and they're going to want to still control shit even if they have $1 billion.
I guess. But that's such a different, like I can't even understand that mindset because I've never wanted to be in control of people.
I saw some documentary. It was like some billionaire kid, like he was the son of a billionaire.
I think it's called Billy Madison.
No. This is.
I saw that documentary too. It was hilarious.
Yeah. This guy was like in that world, and so he went around and he just started filming all of these like super rich people, right? And all these people are like, "You're a fucking idiot. I hate you for doing this," but they still answered his questions, right? And I remember one of them. He was like, "What would happen if you owned the entire planet?" He asked one of these guys, like, and the guy was like, "I would look up at the moon and say how much," right? Mm-hmm. It's like there's no end to it, right, for these people. So,
yeah, that is interesting. Do you think they're part of that like 1% psychopath?
Maybe.
Do you think billionaires have to be a little bit?
I don't know. I've heard that sort of correlation that people talk about that. I don't know if it's real or if it's kind of like an urban myth type thing.
Do you think Elon gets a pass for being autistic?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he's scum, like in some sense, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think many billionaires aren't scum, but like I also find it entertaining that he's being a billionaire fuckboy and fucking with people.
Yeah.
But do you think he gets a pass because he's autistic?
I don't know. I've never tried to diagnose that as good as I could diagnose it, right? I've in him, right? I've never looked at him and wondered if he was
really
autistic. Yeah, no, I've never.
Okay, so for most people, I feel like SNL was not a shocker that he came out and was like, "I'm on the spectrum." It's like, "Oh, are you?"
Oh, he actually came out and said that he was?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like completely not following all current events these days. Okay. I'm like, whoa, what, well, Ellen?
I'll stop bringing up current events then. I don't even feel that tuned in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. But I did not know that he said he was on. Yeah,
no, that's like to me like RuPaul being like, "I'm gay." It's like, are you? Like it seems so obvious to me that he was on the spectrum forever. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm wondering. Part of me saw his SNL thing as like a ploy. Yeah. To kind of put a shield on himself because of how woke shit is now. It's like, well, he's not neurotypical, so before you go judging him, like, manipulating markets or being an F-boy, like,
but then
think of his autism.
There was that guy, that Capitol Hill shaman guy, in the insurrection, Capitol insurrection. Yeah. There was the dude with the
horns.
Yeah. He's also making that claim.
That what?
He's autistic.
Really?
Yeah. And
I mean, he looked pretty fucking autistic when he was taking that photo because he had no awareness of the consequences or how other people would feel about that. That's a very autistic like quality.
Maybe, but the autistic community is like flipping out over it and they're saying don't stigmatize us that way, right? Like, but you using that as your defense makes people think that autistic people are prone to criminality, right?
But here's the thing, it's kind of like a person can claim they're on the spectrum now because it is so varied. How are we going to prove that, right? Like it's an interesting defense. It's a shitbag lawyer that he hired that is like, you need to go for some wild mental illness thing because otherwise you're going to do serious jail time, right? Like, that's why the precedent's being set. But like also to the autism community and like woke people, it's like he might actually be autistic. He might have been convinced to go there. Do you know what I mean? Like, because when I volunteered with like autistic people, they are very suggestible. Do you know what I mean? So like, it wouldn't take much to convince one of them to, like hey, you should drink 6 beers right now. It's like, okay. Like that kind of shit, right? And so I don't know. I don't know much about that guy, but that's very interesting.
It is interesting, yeah. But I think it's the same with Elon Musk, right? Like if Elon Musk is out tweeting about this dude being a pedophile or something like that, just because he's pissed off at him,
guy.
right?
I remember that.
Yeah, that's my current event. That thing that happened 2 years ago. But yeah, that kind of stuff is not excusable, even if someone is on the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And I think the autistic community would be the first to say that.
For sure.
Right.
That brings up a whole interesting thing on, how do you prove that? Because this goes back to that famous Canadian one where they the guy sawed the head off the other person on the Greyhound.
Oh yeah,
right. That dude's out now, right?
Yeah,
which is wild. That's wild. It's I'm on pills now, and I'm fine.
I know, that makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah. So if you're the family, right, and you're just no justice, right? But also anybody that knows about mental illness and mentally ill people don't really like taking pills all regularly.
Right.
That's kind of that makes me super uncomfortable.
Well, and what I heard about specifically schizophrenia, which is what that guy claimed to have, is you take the pills, you get better. But if, let's say, you miss a pill, the sort of it just comes back a little bit. And that little bit is trying to convince you not to take the medication, right?
Yeah.
And so it's you just slowly start to fall off, and then it's the authorities can't do anything about it until you hurt yourself or until you hurt someone else, and then they can get you back on the medication. Right? So
see that's such a weird. Oh, that's such a weird, those gray area ones, it comes down to pedophiles as well. It's what do we do with people like that? So there's chemical castration, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're all right, they have to, in theory, you're trusting the system, right? You're there's checks and balances. Hopefully they're checking testosterone levels or whatever the fuck those diminish, right? And if you don't come below some threshold, you go back to jail, right?
Right.
That's the hope. But man, there is definitely something to that person didn't choose that brain either, right?
True.
This goes back to our kink thing of you don't choose your kink. That's a super people would not like to, people in the kink community, I'll say right now, would not like to think of pedophilia as a kink, but it can absolutely be spun that way. They just really like kids.
Yeah.
That's their fetish.
That actually reminds me of something I want to ask you later. But the thing that I'll say particularly about pedophilia that I find really bothersome is you get these circumstances where somebody has that compulsion, right? And they just control it their entire lives. They're I have this desire. I know it's wrong. I'm not going to act out on it. And then in their later years, they get a brain tumor or something that destroys their inhibitions, and then they go offend, right? And so they spent their entire lives controlling it, and then their brain breaks, and now they're an offender, right? And they go to jail in their senior years and all of that shit. And it's horrible. I don't know what to do about that, because obviously the kids being victimized is a bigger issue. But
well, this is why it's it's an interesting debate in ethics and stuff, because they're talking now about should we be creating AI child porn for people like that so that people stop exploiting real children?
Yeah.
Right? Which is just what the fuck to most people, right? It's we shouldn't. Why are we creating this? Will it actually curb things? To me, it's if I was an authoritarian government, whatever. Because of how pedophilia and molestation and stuff like that seems to work is you do that to someone and then they are likely to become blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It does seem like one of those things that we should be putting people like that down. I don't really I don't really believe in killing people or death penalty. That's the one area that I'm just could we stop the cycle if we, whatever, or is pedophilia oh my God, this is a bad transition, but like gay people, in that if you eliminated gay people, there would always be a 5% that are going to be born in the future.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is an issue where a kid who gets victimized as a young child then grows up to be an offender. I think that happens, and there is a cycle there, but I don't think that's the only way. I think there is like genetic or biological defects that occur that make people attracted to prepubescent.
Your brain tumor thing is a great example.
Yeah, I think it happens. I don't think we can just like, but yeah, I don't think that would work. No. And I also think that providing some kind of CGI child porn system for these people to get that fix might actually work. I don't know. I think maybe that's a controversial thing to talk about, but from what I heard, how I heard it told to me was like in Japan, they have hentai, which features minors and underage children. There's no actual children involved. It's all drawings, but they also have a lower incidence of actual child sexual offenses, right? I don't know if they're correlated or not, but if that was, if psychologists came out and said, yes, this would help these people not to offend, then I'd be like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, because like I'm sure you've seen it now where AI is just creating things that never existed.
Yeah, like deep nude and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like I was playing around with this little, like MS Paint back in the day, right?
Yeah.
It's that basic. You just draw a little mountain and a little sun, and then the AI will just make that picture for you out of everything. And it's like, holy shit. So like, I do believe that like, I think it genuinely would cut down on actual child porn being made.
Yeah.
Because it is just that thing that like, if stuff's not out there, people are going to create it.
Right.
And like, if it is believable, like it's gross. Of course it's gross.
It is, absolutely.
But like, if people believe those are real kids enough to stay at home and just whatever and not go try to exploit a kid, should we be trying to do that?
I mean, I think someone would have to be like super stubborn, closed-minded to say no to that, right? If we could put an end to the child porn industry just by using a deep nude type technology, and I mean, who's so morally righteous they're going to be against that, right?
Right, but there's also some people that are like, well, like their initial thought would be by providing that, it's going to make people want to go make their own or exploit their own kids or get more people into it.
Yeah, it's the whole gateway theory, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you give it to them, they're going to want the real thing, right? If we do a study or something and it turns out that's the case, sure. But if it turns out the case that it actually helps them to control it, let's just be pragmatic about it, right?
Well, that's this is another layer I even know about, which is like real dolls. So people like pedophiles, whatever, have been requesting like child-sized dolls.
Yeah.
And so these makers are like, what the fuck, right? But again, it's like, is that going to keep that person from seeking out an actual child, or is it going to make them more likely to,
Yeah, but it's also, if we wanted to look purely from an ethical perspective, it gets back to that whole pre-crime minority report thing, right? If the person actually has never victimized a person and is requesting a child-sized real doll, like, why are we saying no to that person? Like, but what is it? Like, what is...
I know. It's such a fucked up era.
It offends our sensibilities, but offending our sensibilities is not a crime, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't even like talking about this topic. Like when I brought it up in the Discord or whatever, the fact that no one has responded to me in a week makes me want to delete that post so bad, because I'm just like, oh shit, am I out on an island on this issue that I definitely don't want to be taking a stand on?
If you want, I'll make the reason why, and this to our listeners will mean nothing, but the reason why I never responded is because literally the next day you sent me an audio clip saying you were done with Discord, right? So I was like, okay, well, there's no point to respond.
That is me every week.
Yeah, so I was like, I was actually gonna go in and throw you a bone and say, yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But you said you were done with Discord, so I didn't bother.
Well, I think it just always plays on my anxiety. And that's why, like, that the reason I probably sent that is because that sat there for like a day, and then I was like, there's fucking 100 people in here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're all just like, who is this fucking pedophile? It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I know,
that's
but
not what I'm trying to do.
That's what sucks about these conversations is like you can't say anything other than pedophiles deserve to die. That's like the only thing you can say in polite company without people looking at you suspiciously and be like, well, what are you, a kitty fiddler or something?
Well, exactly. That's the thing, right? Like, I see the discussion was around the TikToks where people go around beating up pedophiles or harassing pedophiles. And I was saying I don't agree with it. But at the same time, I'm not going to go post on one of those posts and be like, it's not right, because we're going to get flooded with people being like, you fucking pedos, you know, like all our first reviews would just be this negative shit, right? And it's like, there's certain topics that I feel like it's not even worth wading into. And I feel like that's how a lot of people feel generally with woke culture, especially.
But the thing is, for me, is like, those are the kind of topics that I can't resist. I know. Right? Like when people get squeamish about something, that's when I want to talk about it, right? If I felt confident that our society was able to rationally discuss this issue without getting to ick about it, then I would be like, yeah, they got it. They're going to figure it out. But it's because I don't believe that they're doing that. That's why I'm compelled to discuss it, right?
Right. Yeah, that is true. It is kind of that comedian thing of like I see the similarities between my mind and a comedian's mind in the way that I like to push boundaries in conversations. I used to feel, this is another thing why I think Myers-Briggs should be taught at an earlier age, is because I think for us intuitives, we start to feel insane because of how people relate to us, right? I now know that so for example, I made a joke in the server the other day about how the Greeks are lazy and blah, 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 right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right? That didn't go down very well with most of the people there, right?
Yeah.
I've learned to not give a shit. It's objectively funny based on Greece is the only country that heard austerity and thought, let's go bankrupt and riot instead, right? Like they're the only ones that are like, what? You want us to start working more than 3 days a week and cut our salaries to what? Fuck you. Yeah. We're rioting, right? Anyways, I've just learned that like when I bring up topics people don't want to talk about or whatever, it generally means I'm actually on the right path now to connecting with people like yourself or with people I actually enjoy getting along with. Yeah. Being ostracized from, let's face it, S-types. Yeah. S-types look at me like I'm saying I support Nazis. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you for not having this in their mind basic, this is how you think about this topic. This is how you think about this topic, right? I liked not that whole devil's advocate thing, but it's like I do like to talk about topics that I know is going to make the other person engage because either they're uncomfortable or they'll have really strong opinions about it.
Yeah, I feel this exact same way. I've never really approached it the same way you are, where it's like I'm weeding out the people that just can't handle what I want to talk about. It's like I've just thought about it as like we need to talk about these things, right? Like we have to be able to bring them up and talk about them because like it's ignoring the issue or just like having the most superficial thoughts on it cause problems in our society, right? So
yeah, people generally like, because I'm an extrovert, right? So I'm running into strangers that I'll say inappropriate things to, right?
Yeah,
Or whatever,
yeah.
right? Like I caught a guy off guard at my gardening group yesterday, right? Like he's like, "What do you do?" And like I had a very non-regular answer. Do you know what I mean? Like I was just like, "Oh, I'm actually on whatever assistance and I stock trade whatever," right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he was just like totally taken aback because he thought like he's quite clearly an S type. When anybody asks me about my job, I'm like, "You're fucking boring and we're not going to connect." Like
Right.
I know you're an S type if you've asked me what my job is. This is like all my best friends. I don't think any of them asked me what my job was ever. I think it was just like I eventually told them,
Yeah.
you know? But anyways, this guy was just like, just wide-eyed, just like, wow, he didn't just say, I'm actually unemployed right now, or
Yeah, totally.
basic answer. I went into this like weird thing that just like forced him to like change his whatever.
Yeah.
I could just tell it threw him for a loop because then I asked him what he did, and he was very proud to tell me, I'm a aqua bioengineer.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, it's just like cool, but like, I definitely don't care what you do. I really don't care what you do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wish I could do that more. Like just like you've told me before things like when you're in an elevator and you're having to deal with that awkwardness of the elevator, you're just going to say something like, "What do you think the meaning of life is?" or something like that. You're just going to go completely to the other side rather than suffer through a discussion about the weather.
I immediately thought of a question the moment you said elevator. I was like, do you think the stop button's connected? That's what I would ask someone.
Yeah. Like I think that's a really good character trait to have. I wish I had that. I've been too beaten down by the politeness of our society, and I don't have that.
But it's such a negative. Like, this is what I'm telling you. It's only now that I'm 36, I've accepted I'm weird to people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, I've always hated those girls specifically that are like, I'm so weird. People don't get me.
Yeah.
I genuinely am that fucking guy because people don't interact with the guy that says weird shit just out of the blue or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It will leave you feeling insane though, because when only 1 in 16 goes well, right? What's your incentive to keep doing it? I don't have incentive. It's just how my brain works. I have to do it. I have to continually interact with the world that way because the awkwardness of just how other people operate, that anxiety gets to me. Silence murders me. I can't stand it. It's like we're quite clearly two people interacting in an elevator at a certain space and time. We might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why I can't be that person. I think I've done it too much now. Like I've suppressed that side of me too much that it's just natural for me not to engage that. I still have the internet became the place where I was able to sort of let my freak flag fly, right? So I didn't need to do that in real life, but I kind of wish I did, right?
Right. And I guess I never got online and
that's the difference.
connected with Reddit people or whatever.
Because it was prior to, for me, it was Usenet was the first kind of internet community.
I use that a lot, MIRC and stuff.
Yeah, and like when I discovered that, and I was like a teenager when I did, it's like I didn't need to be weird anymore with anyone because I had this place and I was weird as fuck online. Like I was going in and I was any community I could find that I could fuck with, I was just fucking with them, right? Like I would, like Usenet had this thing where you could cross post. So you could post you could make a post to 2 different communities at once. And the people that would respond would be from both communities and they wouldn't really figure it out right away. So I would go in and like like I would go to like a historians community and like a Nazi revisionist one, and I would make a post.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant to be doing that at a young age. That's kind of troll behavior before troll behavior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was troll behavior, and trolls were already a thing by the time I was doing that. I mean, I wasn't breaking ground or anything, but yeah.
Are you, well, maybe you think you weren't breaking ground, but maybe this generation's Russian hackers took your idea, and that's why they had the Nation of Islam show up to protest the same day as the pro-Trumpers.
Maybe,
right?
Yeah.
That's
totally.
a fucking brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were going to ask me? We got away from that topic, but
oh yeah, this is just a weird little thing that I noticed, because we had a conversation about kink behavior a few episodes ago, or probably more than a few now, and you mentioned this like subculture within kink called littles, right? And
okay, yeah.
So I'm sure this is nothing, but my girlfriend and I were watching some YouTube videos, and we got on to like this like rabbit hole of people with dissociative identity disorder, right?
DID, yeah.
Yes, people, multiple personalities, and one of them, or more than a few of them, had a personality that was of like a child, right? And they were referring to their alter personality that was a child as a little. So I was wondering, like, is there...
This is why I have a problem with the community, Jason. I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah. So
to me, littles are unresolved trauma.
Okay.
They've been locked at a certain age where something really bad happened. And so, like, for a lot of them, like, I had a friend that, like, came to our city to go to a play date.
Yeah.
Non-sexual. Like right. a lot of these littles just get together to color and draw and go back to a age that they felt like it's kind of like what I describe as like the last time I was truly happy was grade 6.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So I totally understand the temptation to go back to this time and engage in shit. Like I would love to go back and play, like I've said this many times, I would love to go back and play one lunch hour of floor hockey. Just cross-check the shit out of my friends. Just, that's all I would fucking do, right? And so that's all these people are still locked in their adult trauma life. And so becoming their little is like escaping that like a drug in some sense.
Yeah.
So there are, Jesus Christ, I dropped out of school. People that go back in that sense in a very platonic way, right? And then there's other ones where they like to, it is a sexual component. Yeah. And that to me is the like really like fucked up one. Like, so the other ones are kind of like, yeah, go for it. But the idea that like, so I'm a grown man and I have a girlfriend who's 33, but she likes to be a 7-year-old when we fuck.
Yeah.
What's wrong with my brain that I find that hot?
Yeah. That's a good point.
That's why I have a problem with the community is mostly the dudes that are into it.
Yeah.
Because I think historically guys are way more likely to be pedophiles, right?
Yeah.
And so this comes down to that other argument, which is like, well, it's, you know, do these guys actually have pedophilic thoughts, or is it they're fully aware their girlfriend is still, you know,
yeah, well, yeah.
And I mean, is that a good solution to pedophilia if that does work?
I mean, if it works, right?
By the way, if the kink community ever hears this, I'm ostracized for sure. They do not like hearing littles are trauma and there's creepy dudes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want you to be ostracized from the community.
Oh, I do. No, don't worry about it. I always want to be thrown out of every group.
All right, that's cool. No, I mean, maybe we've hashed out this whole pedophilia topic a little too long. I don't know.
Nope.
But
nope. This is just a whole other avenue.
I think that the thing we were talking about before about if we could provide AI to these people, if these kink relationships are providing that outlet, it fine, unless they're taking advantage of trauma, right? If the person is literally in some kind of suggestible state and they really shouldn't be engaging in a sexual act that like further entrenches this traumatic version of themselves, maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like, you know, I've met littles and whatever, and it's like I'm not suggesting that every little is like fucking super mentally ill and not taking care of their mental health, right?
Right.
I just think a lot of them don't. This is the thing. I wish I had challenged the one little that I was really close to, right? I spoke about the experience on here, I think, where like she slipped into her little voice during sex and it just fucking creeped me out immediately.
Yeah.
And I was like, never again, right? But I think I would like to ask, like, because I want to know, generally when someone gets really angry about something, that really tells me something now, that I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Because you don't get pissed about things that aren't slight, like, you know, like if you're like, Ian, you fucking love clowns. It's like, I'm not getting riled up about that because I don't care, right? But if I said to a little, do you think this is trauma? Like, were you molested or sexually assaulted? I think the chances are extremely high.
Yeah,
that some inappropriate boundary was crossed at an age. I don't think anyone like got to being 22 and then decided, oh, you know what? I really like this little kink.
Yeah. I that's unfortunate to me because I feel like you would want to know that. Like if you were in that community and that was something that you engaged in and someone came out and said, hey, listen, we've noticed a correlation. A huge percentage of littles have been, you know, sexually traumatized in their youth. That would be useful information for you if you're in that community. You'd be like, oh shit, I better go see a professional. I better make sure that that's not what's happening with me, right?
But I think, and I don't know if this is an N and S type thing. I'm with you. Yeah. I've always been fascinated. Where did this kink come from? Can I trace it back to anything? I also want to know what is it about my past that created how, like, I want to explore that. That doesn't scare me in any way, right? I always want to know more information.
Yeah, it's like if someone said, oh, we've discovered that white people are more prone to diabetes, right? I wouldn't be like, that's racist for you to say that. I'd be like, oh, my skin's white. I better be more extra careful about diabetic issues, right? Yeah.
Well, the reason I was smiling when you initially brought up this little thing is I was telling a friend to sign up for FetLife or whatever. And I had someone like come by my profile and like it yesterday or whatever. And their name was like Little something. And so I thought it was my friend. And I wrote her immediately and I was like, okay, are you this person that put little in their name? Because you're going to get a lot of messages you do not want to get. like you are not a little, and it means a whole different thing. I feel like people make that error a lot in kink, actually.
That's
like
hilarious.
they come up with these, like, you know, just like, it's like, I'm a dad. I should put Daddy 453.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, like I'll make my username Cosmic or something, and then all of a sudden I've tapped into this alien fetish that I never knew about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people, you really got to think of your username. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You don't remember the question though?
That was the question.
Oh, that was the question.
Yeah, that was the question.
Yeah. I can always talk kink stuff. It's for sure the most fascinating to me because it's full of wild people.
Yeah.
Like I have so many boring people in my life, not to say like, and I mean that like respectfully, just very like go to jobs, come home, read, go to bed.
Vanilla. Right.
Like very, just like that's an enjoyable life. To me, I like hearing about people like this friend I'm talking about. She doesn't like the scene here. Like, she doesn't like the scene from what she's seen. She imagined that it would be more of an Eyes Wide Shut thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, no. You got to go to LA and New York for that. Like, you're not going to find that like Hollywood kink scene in a small city. Like, it's just, it's not a thing.
What is it here? It's like LARPing or what?
What?
LARPing?
What about LARPing?
Is that what kink is in Calgary? Is it just people live action role playing?
You're not going to go to like a 100-person orgy and see a bunch of Nicole Kidmans.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Like, that kind of shit is LA, is New York.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sorry to say, you're probably not getting invited to it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, of course.
You're not rich. You're not an influencer that's got 5 billion people because you're super hot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So this is a thing I always joke about with her, because she does have this like insanely high standard for people she dates. And like, I've never met someone that had what people stereotype women to be, which is really high standard. She really sets these incredible bars. Like, she was telling me yesterday that like, if a guy didn't know what intersectional meant, she would drop him. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, you would have dropped me if you because I originally met her on a dating app, right? We've been friends for a year, but it's like, I explained to her, I was like, if you required that I knew about intersectional feminism,
right,
I would have been like, go fuck yourself. I think it's stupid as shit. I like the old definition of feminism, which is actual equality. I don't know what the fuck intersectional means. I just think we should all be the same, equal opportunity, right? And she was just like, I have no time for that. It's like, right, but you like me, right? And she's like, yeah. So she had to like confront. Anyways, this is a whole thing about people. I've never met people. Have you met people with high expectations like that? Like that you've had like friends that just have too high
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be friends with, like, certainly when I was doing the internet dating thing, anyone that had that kind of profile, I just passed them by, right? I wasn't, even if I agreed with their political viewpoints, I was like, I don't want you to use the potential of us meeting to be some kind of like gateway into your political ideology. That's just weird and creepy to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I never even bothered with those people. Yeah. In terms of like just having friends that were really rigid in that way, I've met a few and we didn't hit it off, right? Because I'm very quick to say something that pisses them off, and it's not even intentional, right?
I really, this is why I want to go back to MBTI, just because you do piss off so many people.
Yeah.
I really enjoy watching that spectacle and then dealing with the fallout. I think it's always so funny when they come talk to me.
Oh yeah.
Right? It always happens. They always come talk to me and I'm like, what did he say? Right. You know, it's like, it's just always the same thing. It's like, he told me I was not this type, or I was this type a whole life. And like,
yeah, I know.
I always want to say to that person, do you realize how you're coming across to me now?
Right.
Like, you're getting butthurt over a stranger telling you something about yourself. Like, why do you care this much?
But I mean, I am very, how I would describe it is I'm very naive, because I just don't think.
You're not naive. You know you're going to press the buttons.
No, I don't. I really don't. I say these things believing that everybody is as like disconnected from their beliefs as I am, right?
Really?
Yeah.
So when you tell people like that say, "Oh, I fluctuate between two types," and you're like, "It's not actually how it works."
Yeah.
Right? You genuinely don't think that's going to piss those people off?
No, I really didn't believe it.
Because to me, those people, what they're communicating is, I want to be special.
Yeah.
So I know that by saying it's not possible, that's going to light them up. I know.
This
goes back to my troll behavior. I would like to do that to those people, because I'm like, why do you care so much about this silly thing? Like, I envy that you piss those people off.
Yeah, but I mean, in my mind, when I hear that, I think, oh, you are just unaware of some of the finer points of this system. So let me educate you. Let me explain to you, right? I don't think that they're deriving some kind of identity from, like I mean, it's hard to say that because, like, particularly Myers-Briggs is all about self-identity, right? But to derive self-identity from being fluctuating from two different types, I would never assume that, because that is just something too outside my own way of thinking to assume, right?
Right. Because I don't get it, right? Like, I mean, I was one of those people that would argue, and I still would argue, that, like, I used to be an INFJ. That's how I lived, or that's how my brain was. That's why I kept coming up with that on a test, right? And like you've argued several times, I've always been an ENFP, but it's just I was unhealthy, or
well, I mean,
I don't remember the argument.
But even in the situation, I think we're thinking of one specific situation where someone came in and said they were between INFP and INFJ, and I said something like, "We might try to narrow that down for you throughout
I love
the
that
night."
it was that
right?
innocuous.
Yeah, and the thing is when I started to see that they were getting upset about it, I backtracked, right? And I said, "Sure, you can be two different types. I don't care that much, right?" But the damage was done, right? I was never going to be a good person in their eyes, right? And that's why those kind of people, I don't have to filter them out of my life. That just happens naturally, right?
So now, do you remember her typings?
Yeah, it was INFP and INFJ, which is the two totally different types, right?
Which did you think she actually was?
INFP. INFPs are the kind to get pissed off about something like that. INFJs are much. Most INFJs that I've met, they're kind of more like us. They want to get into these conversations, and they're willing to disagree for the sake of having the conversation, right?
I also, I feel like an INFJ expert at this point. I also feel like INFJ, not going to get mad.
Yeah.
Also not going to come talk to another person about it.
Right. Oh yeah, totally.
They're just getting up from that event, leaving.
Yeah, true.
You know, they're just like, oh, I didn't have fun. I'm going home now.
Yeah, well, also, I think INFJs, they can read me a lot better than INFPs can, right? So that they would see me as not being antagonistic, right? That I was just naive.
That's
they would
true.
see the naivety, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a break. I got to go to the bathroom so bad.